Welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we shall be discussing the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 17 January 2019. News to be discussed has been presented on the screen, and timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. Let's start our today's discussion. The first news appears as a lead article on page number 10. It says, Manipur shows the way. Its anti-lynching law breaks important ground in attempting to control hate crimes and ensure police action. So this article effectively talks about a law legislated by the state government of Manipur to control hate crimes as well as mass lynching. This topic of mass lynching gets covered under GS paper 2 in your mains examination as well as under GS paper 3, specifically with respect to challenges to internal security communication network. And previously in the year 2017, a similar questions on mob violence has been asked by UPSC. This was the question asked in the year 2017 in your GS paper 3. The question read, mob violence is emerging as a serious law and order problem in India. By giving suitable examples, analyze the causes and consequences of such violence. So we understand that this issue of mob violence has been in news and a question has already been asked by UPSC. Hence, in this aspect, this particular article which talks about that Manipur has legislated a new law to prevent such cases of hate crime and in a way becomes very important. Earlier, due to various instances of mass lynching, the Honorable Supreme Court had directed the central government to legislate a law to prevent such cases of mass lynching and also to make mass lynching as a separate offense. Further, Supreme Court in its observation had linked these growing instances of mass lynching due to disrespect of social order, rising intolerance as well as growing polarization in the society. So keeping these directives of the Supreme Court in mind, the state of Manipur has enacted the Manipur Protection from Mob Violence Bill 2018. So in this article, the author has tried to explain the various salient features of this Manipur Protection from Mob Violence Bill 2018, which provides against instances of mass lynching as well as hate crime. So let's go through some of those salient features of this particular law. So primarily the aim of the law is to create lynching as a separate offense, to provide adequate punishment for mob violence, to instill a sense of fear in people who are involved in such instance of mob violence, and also to provide rehabilitation to the victims as well as to their families. Further, the article mentions that this law provides for a comprehensive definition of lynching. As you can see, lynching means any act or series of acts of violence or aiding or helping such acts, whether spontaneous or planned, by a mob on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, language, dietary practices, sexual orientation, political affiliation, ethnicity, or any other related grounds, or on mere suspicion of commission of a cognizable crime not amounting to heinous crime. So basically we understand that the law provides for a real comprehensive definition and includes various aspects which can lead to cases of mass lynching or mob violence. Further, this law defines mob as a group of two or more people assembled together with a common intention of lynching. Further, the law also provides for a definition of hostile environment. Now, hostile environment refers to an intimidating or coercive environment which is created against the victim or their family members, against a witness to the crime, or against anyone providing assistance either to the victim or to the witness of such instances of mass lynching or mob violence. And this aspect of the law has been quite appreciated by the author in this particular article. Further, the law provides for a nodal officer for protection of such victims of mass lynching. The law mentions that there shall be a nodal officer in each district who shall not be below the rank of a superintendent of police. Now, this nodal officer, along with the deputy superintendent of police, shall constitute a special task force. The purpose of this task force is to procure intelligence reports about the people who are likely to commit such crimes of mass lynching or mob violence. Further, it is the duty of the nodal officer to maintain law and order in their respective districts. and also to take reasonable steps to prevent any act or cases of mass lynching, including its incitement as well as commission of such offense. Now, this law also provides for a concept of dereliction of duty by police officer, where it mentions that if a police officer fails to prevent cases of mass lynching or mob violence without reasonable cause, then such police officer shall be guilty of dereliction of duty. And further, such officers guilty of dereliction of duty shall be liable to punishment for imprisonment up to 1 year, which may extend to a period of 3 years. So basically, it's for the first time that this law provides for dereliction of duty by police officer and prosecutes such police officer who, without reasonable cause, fails to prevent any case of mass lynching. And also, no prior sanction of the state is required to prosecute such police officer. The following act shall also amount to dereliction of duty by police officer, such as failure to provide protection to a victim of lynching, if a police officer fails to act upon apprehended lynching, if a police officer refuses to record statement relating to offense of lynching, and also failure to perform one's duty of maintaining law and order. So all these acts will also amount to dereliction of duty by a police officer. The law further provides for relief as well as rehabilitation of the victims of such cases of mass lynching. The law further provides that it is the responsibility of the state, that is the state government of Manipur, to make arrangements for the protection of victims against any kind of inducement, intimidation, coercion, threat, or violence. Further, if such acts of mass lynching has led to displacement of such victims or their families, then the state government shall arrange for their accommodation as well as for their rehabilitation of such victims. The law further provides that if necessary, the state government shall establish relief camps for such victims who has been displaced from their original residence or their original location, and such relief camps shall be organized or established in safe location. And it shall be the duty of the state government to ensure that basic amenities or facilities are provided to those who are living in such relief camps. If lynching leads to death of a person, then it shall be punishable with life imprisonment. Further, the law provides for punishment of lynching up to 10 years as well as in certain cases up to 7 years. So we understand that punishment provided for cases of lynching or mass lynching is quite severe, as we can see that in case of death of a person, it can even lead to life imprisonment. So these were some of the basic features of this particular law enacted by the state government of Manipur. So the author mentions that Manipur is now the first state to make a law against hate crime or mass lynching, and as per the direction of the Supreme Court, it has made mass lynching a separate offense. Thus, the author has concluded on a note that similar law should be enacted by different state governments and also by the union government to obey the order of the Honorable Supreme Court to make mass lynching a separate offense. So we understand that this topic becomes extremely important. As you can see, a question in the year 2017 has already been asked in your GS paper 3. With this, let's move on to our next news analysis. The next news appears on page number 1 and also as a continuation on page number 12. It says 10% reservation in all admissions for 2019-20. Now in this news, as per the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, 10% reservation for the economically weaker sections in general category will be implemented in all colleges and universities. And this was stated by the Minister of Human Resource and Development in a press conference. Now providing 10% reservation to economically weaker section to all colleges and universities also include private institutions, and this reservation shall be implemented from the year 2019-20. Now this topic of reservation becomes a part of polity and governance and in your mains specifically under GS paper 2 as also under Indian Constitution and also for welfare schemes for the vulnerable section of the society. UGC, that is University Grant Commission, as well as All India Council for Technical Education will be given the operational mandate to implement this direction within a week. Further, this quota of 10% for the economically weaker section shall be over and above the existing quota available for members belonging to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, as well as other backward class. And to facilitate this additional quota, adequate additional seats will be created in these colleges and universities, whereby the government can increase the seats in universities and colleges roughly by 25%. Further, the government also intends to provide members of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other backward class reservation in private educational institutions. Thus, to implement all these aspects, the government will soon notify them in the official gazette. Now, this topic of 124th Constitution Amendment Bill, which provides for 10% reservation to the economically weaker section, has been covered comprehensively in the DNS video dated 10 January 2019 by Mehak Ma'am. In this amendment provides for two new articles, basically Article 15 Clause 6 and Article 16 Clause 6, which provides for 10% reservation over and above the existing reservation provided to the members of SC, ST and OBC in educational institutions as well as public services. So to have a comprehensive analysis of 124th Constitution Amendment Bill, kindly refer to this DNS video dated 10 January 2019. So in this news, the government intends to implement the 10% reservation for the economically weaker section of the society in the general category to be implemented in all colleges and universities, including private institutions from the year 2019-20. Hence, in this aspect, the government will soon notify this particular decision. With this, let's move on to our next news analysis. The next news appears on page number 9. It says, Slump in numeracy skills of rural class 8 students. It mentions that more than half of class 8 rural students do not know according to the Annual Status of Education Report 2018, that is ASER. So in this news, Annual Status of Education Report 2018 has been provided by the NGO Pratham. This survey provides for a reliable estimates of children enrollment in schools as well as their basic learning levels for each district and state in India. Now this topic in your mains examination forms a part of GS paper 2, specifically with respect to issues relating to development of education. Now in this particular news, the ASER report of 2018 highlights that skills of class 8 students have been declined, as 50% of them could not solve correctly a numerical division problem, and more than a quarter could not read primary level text. As per the report, the skills of class 8 students are much bad as compared to the figures of 2008. So this statistic shows the percentage of class 8 students who could read class 2 level text. As you can see, in the year 2008, it was 84.8%. That is, in the year 2008, 84.8% students of class 8 could actually read a class 2 level text, whereas in 2014, this percentage dropped to 74.6%, further dropping to 72.8% in the year 2018. So this statistic reflects a constant decline as far as the reading ability of students of class 8 are concerned. The survey also highlights the percentage of students of class 8 who could divide a 3-digit number by 1-digit number. It says that in the year 2014, 44.1% of class 8 students could actually divide a 3-digit number by 1-digit number. However, this has been declined to 43.9% in the year 2018. So we can say there has also been a decline in mathematical skills of class 8 students. So the news mentions that without strong foundational skills, it is difficult for children to cope up with studies of higher grades. However, reports for class 3 level students are slightly encouraging. The report mentions that for class 3 level students, there have been certain improvements since 2014. Despite this improvement, even in 2018, less than 30% of students in class 3 are able to read class 2 level text and also able to solve double digit subtraction. So the picture which emerges from this entire discussion is that majority of children requires immediate help in acquiring foundational skills, specifically in literacy as well as in solving numerical problems. Another encouraging sign is with respect to enrollment of children in schools, as the percentage of children under 14 years who are out of school is now only less than 4%. Further, gender gap is also decreasing in schools, as only 13.6% of girls in the age group of 15 to 16 years are out of school. So these can be said to be some of the encouraging signs with respect to education in the country. Before concluding, let's go through some of the issues highlighted by this survey. It says that learning outcomes witnessed a decline following the push towards universalization of education after right to education came into force in 2010. Further, the report highlights that there have been certain improvements over numeracy and literacy skills. However, as compared to 2010, these levels remains quite low, considering the fact almost a decade has passed. And this low level of numeracy and literacy skills among children signals disparities in learning outcomes across the country. The report further mentions that because of lack of basic foundational skills among children, specifically with respect to reading and maths, it impedes or restricts children's ability to carry out basic life tasks and leads to certain problems in their adulthood. Further, the survey also highlighted wide disparities among learning levels in different states. So these are some of the issues highlighted by the Annual Status of Education Report 2018. Now this topic becomes an important topic from your mains perspective. With this, let's move on to the next news analysis. The next article appears on page number 11. It says, Learning to Compete, Skill India needs a sharp realignment if it is to meaningfully transform people's life chances. Now this article looks at the implementation of National Skill Qualification Framework in the light of India Skills Competition. The author in this article has suggested for a need for clarity in course curriculum of National Skill Qualification Framework and has also suggested to restructure some of the sector skill councils. So in this analysis, let us understand about National Skill Qualification Framework, India Skills Competition, as well as the suggestions provided by the authors. National Skill Qualification Framework is a competency-based framework that organizes all qualifications according to the series of knowledge, skills, as well as aptitude. And this classification based on knowledge, skills, and aptitude is just like a general academic education classification. So these levels are graded from 1 to 10. And these levels are defined in terms of learning outcomes which the learner must possess. And these learning outcomes can be taken either from formal, non-formal, or informal learning. So for classification, class 9 refers to level 1. Similarly, class 10 refers to level 2. Class 11 refers to level 3. And class 12 refers to level 4. And from level 5 to 7 is represented through undergraduate education. So under the National Skill Qualification Framework, the learner can acquire the certification for competency needed at any level as mentioned here through formal, non-formal or informal learning. So in that sense, National Skill Qualification Framework actually acts as a quality assurance framework. Further, the National Skill Qualification Framework is anchored at the National Skill Development Agency and is being implemented through the National Skills Qualifications Committee. This National Skill Qualification Framework comes under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. The article mentions that the National Skill Qualification Framework was to be implemented by December 27, 2018. And in this respect, the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship mandated that all training educational programs courses must be National Skill Qualification Framework compliant. The article highlights that the National Skill Qualification Framework was to be implemented by 27 December 2018. Further, the ministry mandated that all training programs, educational programs, as well as courses must be NSQF compliant. And all training and educational institutions shall define eligibility criteria for admission to various courses in terms of NSQF levels. After understanding basic facts with respect to National Skill Qualification Framework, let us also go through some of the important points about India Skills or National Skill Competition. The India Skills Competition concluded recently in October 2018, and this India Skills Competition is India's biggest skill competition held in Delhi. And this skill competition is organized by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Now, the 2018 India Skills witnessed 400 regional finalists from 27 states who competed in 45 different skills, 10 traditional skills, and 4 demonstration skills. Another important aspect with respect to India Skills competition was that AB Olympics was included in India Skills 2018, where persons with disabilities were included. Now, India Skills competition becomes important because winners of this competition will represent India at the 45th World Skills Competition, which will be held in Kazan in Russia in 2019. So, after understanding National Skill Qualification Framework and India Skills Competition, let's understand or go through the suggestions provided by the authors in this particular article. Now, the first suggestion made by the authors are with respect to course curriculum, where they say that course curriculum of National Skill Qualification Framework is not clear, and further it needs realignment of courses with actual industrial needs. And this suggestion of theirs can be seen through the participation which we saw at India Skills Competition 2018, where only 20% of participants were from National Skill Development Corporation provided courses, which are NSQF compliant. Whereas majority of the participants in the India Skill Competition 2018 were from corporates as well as industrial training institutes. So this difference of participation tells the real story with respect to courses which are NSQF compliant. So in this aspect, the author suggests that the course curriculum of NSQF, that is National Skill Quality Framework, needs to be realigned with actual industrial needs. So to have a comprehensive understanding of the suggestions provided by the author, let us first understand that how skills in our country is broadly imparted through. As you can see, skills in our country is broadly imparted through 5 pillars, namely the secondary schools or polytechnics, industrial training institutes, National Skill Development Corporation funded private training providers who offer short-term training, 16 ministries who provides mostly short-term training, and employers who offers enterprise-based training. So these are broadly the ways in which an individual is provided skill development training in different ways. So it is in this aspect the author mentions that if Skill India was to be open only for NSQF compliant institutes, it would have been a big failure, as only 20% of the participants were from National Skill Development Corporation provided courses, which are NSQF compliant. So it is in this aspect that the author suggests to make National Skill Development Corporation courses to be more broader, to include more skills and occupational groups, as it will also help in providing proper training and acquiring requisite skills to compete at international levels. Further, the author highlights that National Skill Qualification Framework has not been accepted very well across India. In this regard, the author has suggested certain measures so that the National Skill Qualification Framework compliant courses are well received in India. The general academic institutions have periodic tests to qualify for the next level. So at every level, you have to pass that particular test in order to proceed further. So you have to pass class 8 to go to class 9, and similarly in every class. So the thing is that only if a student pass class 12th exam, they are permitted for further studies. However, under National Skill Qualification Framework, there is no such course curriculum that enables assessment based upward mobility. So the author mentions that under National Skill Qualification Framework, there is no requirement or connection between prior learning or practical experience to pursue a higher level of course, which is not the case with respect to general academic institutions. Further, the author mentions that there is no real alignment between Ministry of Human Resource Development as well as Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, as the Ministry of Human Resource and Development is responsible for school level and Bachelor of Vocation courses, and Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship is responsible for non-school or non-university related vocational courses. So the author suggests that there needs to be a synchronization between Ministry of Human Resource and Development as well as Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So considering all these aspects, the authors have suggested for more clarity and realignment of these courses with actual industrial needs. Further, the author mentions that there are too many sector skill councils and at times they overlap over one another. Now, world skills hold competition in 6 broad sectors. However, in the India Skills 2018, 19 sector skill councils participated. But India has 38 sector skill councils. So the question is, if there are only 6 broad sectors to compete, then why in India there are 38 sector skill councils? And the author has also suggested that why the other 19 sector skill councils did not participate in India Skills 2018. So basically, the author is trying to suggest that there is a need for restructure of these sector skill councils. The author has also given an example of overlapping of sector skill councils. We have 4 sector skills councils for manufacturing itself. They are iron and steel, strategic manufacturing, capital goods, and infrastructure equipment. But with respect to world skills courses, these 4 are treated as just one. Therefore, the author suggests that there should be just one sector skill council called the Machinery and Equipment Manufacturing Council, which is in line with National Industrial Classification of India. So, in this aspect, the author suggests that the same should be done with other sectors as well. Further, the author mentioned that the courses offered by sector skill councils are not comprehensive enough to compete. So, the training provided by these sector skill councils does not show holistic approach. Hence, the participants are not able to compete on a world level. So, the author suggests for restructuring of these sector skill councils in line with National Industrial Classification of India, as it will improve quality, ensure better outcomes, and also strengthen the ecosystem. Thus, these were some of the suggestions provided by the author with respect to clarity in course curriculum as well as restructuring of sector skill councils in line with National Industrial Classification of India. Now, after the discussion, these two forms your practice question for the day. What you can do is to take a pause of 5 seconds. This question says, consider the following statements about National Skills Qualification Framework. First, it is a competency-based framework that organizes all qualifications according to series of levels of knowledge, skills, and aptitude. Yes, this statement is correct as we have seen. Second, under National Skill Qualification Framework, the learner can acquire the certification for competency needed at any level through formal, non-formal, or informal learning. Yes, this statement is also correct. So in this, C is our correct answer, that is both 1 and 2. The next question says, consider the following statements about India Skills 2018. First, it is a second edition of nationwide skill competition that was organized by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in Kerala. No, this statement is incorrect as it was organized in Delhi. Second, a number of Divyangs participated in the competition. Yes, this statement is correct. As you can see that AB Olympics was also included in India Skills 2018 for persons with disabilities. Hence in this aspect, B is our correct answer, that is 2 only. With this, let's move on to our next news analysis. The next article appears on page number 11. It says, hitting its stride. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank has grown stronger, but it should develop a wider portfolio of projects. So this article talks about Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and has provided the current overview of this bank. This topic forms a part of GS paper 2, specifically under important international institutions. As you can see, this particular question was asked in the year 2014 in GS paper 2. And this question was with respect to difference between Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and New Development Bank. So on this note, let us understand about this Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Now this Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is a multilateral development bank and it is headquartered in Beijing in China. Now this becomes an important information from your prelims perspective. And it began operations in 2016 with 57 founding member countries. And it has an authorized capital of $100 billion. What is its mission? Its mission is to improve social and economic outcomes in Asia by investing in a sustainable infrastructure and other productive sectors, not only in Asia but also beyond Asia. And importantly, it's based on core values of lean, clean, and green. Now, as per the official website of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, currently it has 93 members. And this bank has approved more than 30 projects with investment of more than $7 billion. Further, AIIB has also expanded its mandate to involve non-Asian countries with several non-Asian members of AIIB. Thus, AIIB is a multilateral development bank and is headquartered in and it has an authorized capital of $100 billion. Its purpose is to improve socio-economic outcomes in Asia by investing in sustainable infrastructure and also in other productive sectors, not only in Asia but also outside Asia. And its core values are of lean, clean, and green. And currently, the bank has 93 members. So, in this aspect, let us understand the Indian scenario with respect to AIIB, that is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. It says that India's total subscription of AIB is more than $8 billion. However, that of China is roughly around $29 billion. So, as we can see, there is a huge difference between India and China in terms of total subscription amount. And this amount gives India a voting percentage right of around 7%. Whereas an investment of $29 billion gives China a voting percentage of around 26%. So there is a major difference not only in terms of subscription amount between India and China but also in terms of voting percentage between India and China, where India has a voting percentage of around 7%, whereas China has a voting percentage of around 26%. So it says that China therefore has the highest voting percentage rights in AIIB, with India having the second highest. However, as far as investment opportunity is concerned, India has been bank's biggest beneficiary as a quarter of AIIB's approved projects are geared towards its development. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank provides India another alternative to World Bank, IMF, and Asian Development Bank for infrastructure financing. So basically, it gives India an alternative in terms of financing its projects. Further, the article highlights about operational control. It says that India, apart from China, is the only country to enjoy a permanent seat on bank's board of directors. Now, this is important. So, a permanent seat on board of director allows India greater operational control over projects in such country where AIB funds its projects. However, with respect to voting rights, China does have an effective veto power of overall approval of projects, considering the fact that it has roughly around 26% of voting rights in this Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. On cooperative model, it says that AIB has ensured that it cooperates with other multilateral financial institutions. So basically, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank cooperates with other multilateral financial institutions such as World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Asian Development Bank, etc. So basically, there are certain projects which are co-financed by all these multilateral financial institutions. Now, this talks about Bank of Global South. It says that Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is similar to the new development bank developed by BRICS countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This mentions that AIIB is similar to new development bank of BRICS and can further augment their profile as being a bank led by Global South countries, whereas the World Bank and IMF are led by West. So, success of AIIB and NDB would ensure a change within the international economic global order with greater say of countries like India and China, who are part of both AIIB as well as New Development Bank. So, in this aspect, success of AIIB and NDB would actually ensure a change within the international economic global order. Thus, we understand that this particular article becomes extremely important, as you can see a question has already been asked by UPSC in the year 2014. Now, after our discussion, this forms your practice question for the day. What you can do is to take a pause of 5 seconds. It says, consider the following statements about AIIB, that is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. First, it is an initiative led by BRICS group of nations. No, this is incorrect. Second, India is the largest net recipient of AIIB funding. Yes, this statement is correct. So in this, B is the correct answer, that is 2 only. With this, we come to an end to discussion of today's newspaper. Let's move on to the question for the day.